if you can tell us what does an actuary actually does in a company and in an insurance company basically. Okay.
Now, as we are moving ahead, we are seeing banks also hiring actuaries. There are
What different types of actuaries are there? So you've talked about life. So what all different types and what is the basic difference between all of them?
actuaries, there are pension actuaries, there are like pensions and retirement.
How can anyone become an actuary in India? So what is the pathway for it?
There are two institutes. Choose either IAI, which is the Institute of Actuaries of India, which is like the Indian body.
In market, the general perception is that the actuarial exams are very difficult. What is your take on that?
There are two sides to it. You might say it's difficult, you might say it's long. I would say it's difficult because it is a long journey.
So in terms of designation, if I look at insurance company, anybody who is joining the entry level role in the actuarial team, what is the ideal designation that goes and how it goes to the top? Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students preparing for competitive exams like CFA, FRM, and SCR. And as a part of that support system, we have started going and doing podcasts with people who are already working in industry and trying to understand what is happening in terms of career, which different roles are available in finance. And as a part of that discussion, I'm with Saransh today, and he's going to be talking to us with respect to extraordinary area of actuarial science and how he started the actuarial journey and what all areas are available within that. So first of all, Saransh, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. And if you can give a brief about yourself with respect to your educational background, what is the overall experience that you have and how you started with this actuarial journey?
Hello Ganesh, thank you very much for having me here. I am really excited for this discussion today. So brief about me. I hail from Jaipur. I have done my schooling from Jaipur. I moved on to Mumbai for my undergraduate studies, which was in economics. Besides that, I was also sitting for my actuarial exams parallel to my undergraduate studies. And then after my undergraduate studies, I went on to work with HDFC Life. It was a
Okay.
very short internship, and shortly after that, I started my like full-time role with PwC UK. Their practice is set up in Mumbai. I spent around two and a half years with them. I was working majorly in the live team. I have specialized in the live domain. So my work majorly revolved around life insurance and products related to that and consulting related to that. Currently, I'm working with Deloitte USI based out of Gurgaon. And again, I'm working as a consultant there.
So when did you give the first paper for your actuarial science? Immediately after 12th?
In my second semester in my during my college,
Okay.
so like first 6 months I took some time to explore and see what things are happening. I was in a new city, and like everyone was enrolled into different courses. People were talking about CFA, there were people talking about CMT and various other
Right.
courses,
Right.
and actuarial science was one of them. So
Hmm.
like first 6 months I did my research here and there, talked to people, talked to seniors who tried it and probably left it as well, and talked to people who were actually pursuing it. And like after that I just thought I could give it a try, go for one paper, see how I feel about it, and then
Okay.
proceed with it. So my second semester during 2019 was when
Mhm.
I sat for my first paper.
Interesting. Now, for the audience, if you can tell us what does an actuary actually does in a company and in an insurance company, basically.
Right. So at a very high level, Ganesh, an actuary's job is to manage risk. First
Mhm.
of all, like they identify risk,
Okay.
what all areas can risk arise from. Then predict uh, the financial nature of the risk, the quantum as to how much it might affect the company, and then manage. Manage means you keep aside funds for those risks, and wait for probably things to happen, and you have the right amount of money to meet your liabilities in the future. So that's like a very high level view. But
Okay.
when you go into the details of what an actuary does, it totally depends on the company you're working with. So if you're working in a consultancy environment, you are serving your clients, you are helping them validate their calculations, their existing calculations. If you're
Okay.
working in a core industry,
Mhm.
you are a part of an in-house team, and like these are the major two structures.
So in-house team of the insurance company, basically.
Yes. So yeah, traditionally actuaries have been hired by insurance companies, and
Hmm.
whatever calculations are required, whatever management of funds is required in terms of keeping aside some money, actuaries have been at the forefront of doing those calculations. But
Okay.
now, as we are moving ahead, we are seeing banks also hiring actuaries. There are tech companies that have their own actuarial teams. There are
Okay.
companies that require their data science teams to have actuaries. So,
Oh.
at the core of our education, we have statistics and mathematics, right? And statistics, as we all know, is the base for more complex machine learning, deep learning, all of those models, right? So, wherever there is application for these things, actuaries can actually utilize their skills in those companies. But
Okay.
most traditionally, when we are talking about it, insurance companies have been hiring actuaries. So, when I
So
say consulting,
yeah, yeah.
consulting companies like the Big Four, Accenture, all of
Mhm.
those companies, they hire actuaries and then they consult insurance companies, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. But see, for the audience, I mean, see, I was also a part of the insurance business. I was a part of the risk team, and I've
yeah,
seen in actual team working. But for the audience, if you can give an example, that suppose if you're an actuary sitting in a life insurance company,
yeah.
what, and give us an example that what exactly the risk that you're looking at.
Okay. So, given that I have my background in life domain, there will be like set of variables or risk variables that we will look at. So,
Okay.
what impacts life insurance industry the most? It is mortality.
Hmm.
When can we expect, or when do we expect people to die?
Hmm.
So that is the major risk variable that we see. Or we look at expenses, whether expenses will be higher or lower this year. So that is another risk variable that we look at. There is
Okay.
a risk that the policyholder might discontinue their policy.
Okay.
So for like it's a 10-year policy. They
Hmm.
have paid their premiums for 4 years, but after the payment, they realize that the policy is not valuable to them anymore, or they probably do not have the financial capability to continue to pay the premiums. So there's a
Okay.
risk of lapsation. They might not pay the premiums anymore.
Okay.
So that is
Policy lapsing.
another policy lapsing, right? So these are like some of the major or key risks that affect the life insurance industry. So
Hmm.
keeping these risks in mind, we do various functions. We could be pricing products. So what premium a certain policyholder will pay to the insurance company. So based
Okay.
on their individual characteristics, they will be required to pay the premiums. So before a policy is even sold to policyholders, all of the premium rates are decided well in advance,
Right. Right.
given all the characteristics of the possible policyholders that the company is allowing.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
pricing is one department. Then there is reserving or valuation, as they say. Reserving or valuation basically means once the product is in the market, people are buying it, there are active policyholders. The company will set aside funds so that whenever in the future there are claims, when a policyholder dies, their family applies for a claim, we have to make a payment to their family. Now,
Hmm.
when that will happen, we don't know. So we have to keep funds aside in advance. So that is one function. Then there is business planning. So what the business planning team will do, they will see what type of uh, products or like mix of products they expect to sell in the
Hmm.
future, to like what is the kind of business that is expected to come in the company, like what
Okay.
policy will be sold, what is the size of the policy that will be sold. So let's say someone buys a 1 crore term insurance, but
Hmm.
someone else might take a 2 crore or a 5 crore term insurance. So we have
Right.
to see, okay, let's say 10 people are buying 1 crore insurance, but there are these 3 people who are buying, let's say, a 2 crore insurance. So we have to see the mix of the business as well. So
Okay.
the business planning team will work closely with those things, and they will like set expectations as to what type of business will come into the company, and then they will work closely with the valuation team, and the valuation team on the basis of their expectations will set the reserves. That is one team.
So basically, there
And
should be no concentration to one product or one region also in terms of when you're selling the product, right?
definitely, definitely.
Okay.
There's one concept of cross subsidies as well. So
Hmm.
when you're selling a policy with a sum assured of 1 crore, your expenses will be at a certain level.
Hmm.
But when you are selling a policy of, let's say, sum assured 5 crores, your expenses will not go higher by a uh,
Proportionate level.
proportionate level, right? So there is cross subsidies. Selling bigger policies give you extra amounts which you can then use to cross subsidize your probably higher expenses on smaller policies.
Okay.
So that way also you don't want only a certain type of policies to be sold. There has to be a good mix of everything. It is mixed in terms of size of the policy, geographically as well, because like let's say there's some natural disaster in one state, and
Hmm.
then you've sold, let's say, 10,000 policies in that state only.
Right. Right.
So then there is a possibility of a catastrophe in your books. So you want like a good mix in terms of geography, north, south, east, west, and center.
Okay. So it's a products mix also plus the region mix also that
Yes,
you guys
yes.
have to look at. Okay. Okay.
So, like,
Hmm.
there's this concept again, applying cross subsidies to a product level as well. So, assuming you are selling one product just for customers to enter your company, it might not be profitable for your company, it might be a loss making product, but then you
Okay.
want to upsell more products to those customers which are more profitable to your company.
Okay.
So, then you want like a good portfolio of products, and then to be able to sell those products to all of your customers.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And what different types of actuaries are there? So you've talked about life. So what all
Yeah.
different types, and what is the basic difference between all of them?
Okay, so like to name some, besides life actuaries, there are non-life actuaries, which are called like the umbrella term is general insurance. We say it is general insurance because like it covers almost everything except for life insurance. There are health actuaries, there are pension actuaries, there are like pensions and retirement. There are banking actuaries as well these days, and there are investment actuaries. So their work differs in the sense that they apply their statistical or risk knowledge to different risk factors. So for a non-life actuary, the time
Hmm.
horizon that they're looking at will be different. In a life insurance setup, you're looking at a policy that will last for, let's say, 20, 30, or 40 years.
Hmm.
For a general insurance actuary, the policy might last for a year, two, or three. So,
Okay.
just to name some products, your car insurance comes under general
General
insurance.
insurance, yeah.
Your like ship insurance, whenever your goods are moving from one country to another, those goods are like that type of insurance falls
Okay.
under general insurance. Even when you are taking a trip to a foreign country, you see people buying those 10 days travel insurance.
Ah, yes, yes.
That, yes, that might also fall under general insurance. So, if you notice, the time horizon is very short generally under non-life insurance. So,
Hmm.
they would be looking at different risks and under different time frames. For life insurance, that will be different. For pensions and retirement, the objective is also very different. You're collecting contributions from employees or individuals or
Right.
professionals over a lifetime, and then after they're done working they receive a certain payment every year or every month.
Hmm.
So that is a different angle. And when you talk about banking actuaries, they're again looking at risk but in terms of a bank. So they might be looking at credit risk, people not
Paying the back.
making payments, right? So like at a high level, your work remains the same, that is to analyze and manage risk. But where you're
Okay.
applying it, the risk factor that varies as per the industry you're working in.
Okay, interesting. Now, very basic question. How can anyone become an actuary in India? So what is the pathway for it?
Okay, so again, there are two institutes that are there in most famously. People choose either IAI, which is the Institute of Actuaries of India, which is like the Indian body for this professional certificate. And then
Mhm.
there is IFOA, Institute of Faculty of Actuaries, which is the UK based institute, right?
Okay.
People are free to choose whichever institute they want to choose. They can start sitting for their exams, and it's a 13 exams long journey. Like this is
13
from
exams.
the, yes, 13 exams, and this is from an education standpoint. Your workex requirements are separate from this, so you sit for these exams, and it does not necessarily need you to do this full time. For example, if you have like an engineering degree, right? You can
Mm.
sit for these exams on the side. If you are doing, let's say, a BCom or an economics degree or any
Okay.
other like degree, you can sit for these exams on the side. And later on, when you start working, you have to have minimum 3 years of professional experience for you to be called a qualified actuary or a fellow actuary. So you
Okay.
complete all your exams, you have minimum 3 years of work experience, and then you apply for the fellowship.
And in market, the general perception is that the actuarial exams are very difficult. What is your take on that?
I think it is again a very uh, like there are two sides to it. You might say it's difficult, you might say it's long. I would say it's difficult because it is a long journey. So
Okay.
it will take 4 to 5 or 6 years if you are, very persistent and like diligent about it. And if you are taking breaks, if you are not sitting for exams regularly, so the exams happen twice a year, and then
Mm.
the number of papers you sit for is again your choice. So it's not necessary that you only sit for one exam every 6 months, or it's not like a compulsion that you sit for three, four, or whatever. It's your choice how many papers you can prepare for, and then you can sit for them. So that is again an individual's choice. But again, it generally takes people 5 to 6 years to complete uh, all of these exams. But again, that is a very good estimate because it might take
Yeah.
longer given your
Uh-huh.
personal circumstances, right?
Right.
And like whatever things you're doing on the side.
But
So,
individually, the papers are not very tough. That's what you're saying. When you prepare for it, the
yeah,
paper content is not tough.
I wouldn't say that. It will require a
Okay.
lot of hours to be like, these are not rocket science questions, right? If you give enough time and the
Mm.
time that it requires, I think these concepts are very interesting as well, and it's fun to solve those questions. So I
Okay.
wouldn't say it's difficult. It will take time to grasp those concepts, but once you have a hang of it, it builds over time. So like if you've sat for, let's say, 2 or 3 papers, you start to
Mm.
get a hang of it, right? And then the next 2 3 papers, you already know the exam pattern. You know, okay, how to connect all the dots in those concepts.
Right.
So then it's like compounding of efforts. And finally,
Mm.
when you're towards your 10th or 11th paper, you are mostly accustomed to how to write answers, how to prepare for it. You know a structure. Okay, I have to sit for these many hours every day. So I wouldn't say it's difficult overall. In the beginning, definitely it's new. You are, preparing for something very new, a totally different structure or format of exams. So yeah, in the beginning you might take some time, but over time it becomes comfortable.
So
But again, yeah,
on an average, how much time, if I'm working professional, I'm
yeah.
doing work and I'm giving papers alongside while, so on an average, how much time it takes for me to prepare for one paper as per your experience?
Uh, okay, so if you are picking a paper that is big in size in terms of, it holds a lot of mathematical concepts, it will require you to practice your sums, your calculations. So I would say at least 2 hours a day is important. And then if you have uh, the relevant company that you're working, like if you're working in an insurance setup, they are aware of these exams and they already have a study policy in place, right?
Right.
Every insurance company or insurance consulting company will have a study policy in place. So you will get certain leaves starting 1 2 months before your exams. So that is another day that you get to study, and definitely weekends are there. So I would say when you're working, you would at least give 2 hours a day.
And overall, how many months? 5 months is good enough.
5 months is a very good number. I would say if you are able to focus for 3 or 4 months on a regular or consistent basis, your chances of passing the exams are very high.
Okay, interesting, interesting. So now, if what would be the key? If you can give some key pointers or tips or strategy for anybody who is preparing for an actuarial exam, any paper, what would be the strategy or tips that you can share?
Okay, I think so. The most important part is to plan your months wisely. So let's say
Mhm.
you're starting 4 months before your exams. That is a very good amount of time. You need to plan. Okay, I will complete my material, whatever the material comes from the institute. I will
Mhm.
try and complete this material in next 20 25 days. I will be done with the content in this material, and then I will, let's say, plan 20 days for past papers. There will be past
Right.
papers uploaded on your website. There will be revision notes, and like there's a whole lot of material available with the institute which you can purchase. And again, that is a part of your study policy with the company. If you are, this is when you're working and studying. When you're in college, there's no one else to fund your education, so that comes from your pockets. But when you're working, the company supports you.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
structure your like timelines well. First month I'm doing the material, second month I'm doing the past papers, third month I'm probably revising or doing the back questions, or you
Mhm.
can do it simultaneously, reading the material, doing the back questions simultaneously, and then coming to the revision notes. Last month you're planning to sit with past papers and writing them down in exam conditions, so that is also very important,
Okay.
so that you can build a mindset of writing down the exam.
Okay. And while suppose if I'm a student, I've completed my graduation, I'm also giving the papers. So do you recommend me directly joining an internship, okay, or directly going to a full-time job?
So how it happens currently, as I see, like there are a lot of people posting about internships on LinkedIn, and generally what happens is insurance companies do not hire directly for full-time positions. So they
Okay.
would initially try and get people for a brief internship. It could be a 3 months, 6 months, or a year-long internships, depending on the company. They will
Hmm.
see how you are fitting within the company. They will see how good you are for the specific team or role. And then once you have performed well, or your expectations are also meeting with the company's expectations, then you become a full-time employee. This is how it happens mostly in the like core insurance companies. For consulting companies, it can be totally different. Some consulting companies, they hire directly for full-time role, and they do not have any expectations of any prior exam passes or any relevant experience. They judge you based on your aptitude, your grades in your college, and just your interest in the actuarial field or the insurance field, and your willingness to sit for exams in the future. So based
Okay.
on that, if you pass their step-by-step process for the interviews and like their position, they take you
Right.
and they train you from the very beginning. But what other consultancies do, they take you for like a 6 months or a year-long internship. It's
Hmm.
called, sometimes it's called fixed-term hires or interns or trainees, as they say. And once you are a good fit for the organization, they convert you for a full-time role.
So in terms of designation, if I look at insurance company, anybody who is joining the entry level role in the actuarial team, what is the ideal designation that goes and how it goes to the top?
So you could be called an associate, you could be called an analyst. Totally depends on the hierarchy of the company. In insurance consultancies like the Big Four, they start with associates. There are again levels of associates, then you become senior associates, again few levels on senior associate levels, and then you become a manager. In other consultancies you could be called an analyst, then consultant, then senior consultant, and then a manager, but mostly it's either analyst or an associate position. Again, terminology depends on company.
Okay. And what is one important skill set that an actuary or a student preparing for that exams, okay, should ideally have to succeed in that role or succeed in the actuarial field?
So I think if you are, there are two things. If you're asking from a work perspective,
Work perspective, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So I think the most important skill that I've realized over last 3.5 years is that you must have attention to detail. So you're
Hmm.
mostly working with softwares, you're mostly working with models, you're mostly working with spreadsheets, right? And there are a lot of formulas, there are a lot of numbers, dates, and a lot of calculations happening, right? And a single cell or a single calculation might impact all the others in a big way. So you need to have that uh, attention to detail, that you are not missing out on anything. You've
Hmm.
checked and reviewed everything, even when you start your work and when you end your work. When you are reviewing yourself, you need to see if everything has been done in a correct order and in the correct manner. So I think that is something that really, really helps, because see, when you're starting out, there will be seniors who will be reviewing your work. So
Hmm.
it's okay to have mistakes in the beginning, right? Because there will be like 2 or 3 levels of review. But as you start to become more senior, people will expect you to deliver perfect work or near to perfect work. There are no like there's no scope for mistakes, because you are ultimately delivering to clients, right? So it doesn't look good on your part that you've submitted some work which had mistakes in it.
Right.
So that way, attention to detail is very important.
And when you look at the overall tools, like you also mentioned about software, so
Yeah.
which tool is something that the candidate should know when he's in that journey of actuarial?
Okay. So, firstly, as part of your education curriculum, there are
Mhm.
few softwares that are already discussed. So you are required to know those software as part of your exams, because you are tested on them. So
Okay.
R is one thing which is tested already. R programming. It's kind of
Hmm.
a language wherein
Right.
you build your logic. So for your CS1 core statistics 1 and core statistics 2, you are required to prepare on those on that language and appear for a paper. R is something that you already prepare for. Then there is Microsoft Excel that you learn during your curriculum. This is required for your CM1 and CM2, which is core mathematics 1 and core mathematics 2.
Okay.
But what happens is, when you are learning these softwares for the first time during these exams, you learn them for very specific purposes. So you are learning your specific concepts that are there in your material, and then you are solving those
Right.
questions uh, as your answers. But when you
Hmm.
start in the real world, in the professional world, there are a lot of more functions that are required, that you need to know, and these kind of help you to do your work faster and efficiently. So if you always have to use your mouse to go at a certain section in Excel, then it
Hmm.
takes more time, right? So over time you're required to learn those shortcuts which can get your work done faster. So I think I would suggest everyone to at least know intermediate level Microsoft Excel, because ultimately you will learn it during your work experience, but it's always better to know it beforehand,
Okay.
because it saves you a lot of time during your work.
So in the
And,
industry, R as a software is widely used. Am I
and
correct?
no, R as a software is not widely used. Excel is something that is used on a daily basis.
Okay. Okay.
R and Excel, these are the softwares that you learn during your exams, but Excel is something that is used every day. Then there are specialized softwares. So, for example, if I'm working in the live domain, there's a software called Profit. It's a
Okay.
modeling software which is used majorly by the modeling teams. or like consultancies when they are consulting on a modeling project. There are like
Okay.
competitors as well, like GGY Access, there's MG Alpha, and similar other softwares. But
Okay.
out of all these softwares, Excel is something that you will use on a daily basis.
Okay. And when you're working for an actuarial team, so how closely you work to the work with the other teams in an insurance company? Like there is claims team, there is an underwriting team. So how closely you work with them?
So from an insurance company standpoint, I think it's a very well knit work environment. So the actuarial team will definitely work with the accounting team. They will work with the underwriting team. They will work with the finance team. The underwriting team, because they will tell you what type of business is coming in, because they are the first point of like contact, a point of contact with what type of policies are coming in. So they will help you see what type of policies are coming in.
Hmm.
So you can
Right.
actually see what was the expectation of policies that you were expecting to receive or sell, and what is the actual that is coming in.
Hmm.
So that will be the result of your communication with the underwriting team.
Okay.
Uh, with the finance team, you will see, they will give you inputs of how funds need to be managed and all of those things. So with the finance team, you will see that. With the accounting team, you need to give them the required numbers towards the quarter end that need to be presented in the balance sheet or your income statements, right?
Okay.
So that is there. Yeah, but overall, like it's a full collaboration with various teams in an insurance setup.
And one misconception which outside people have about actuarial people, basically. So what is
Yeah.
that one misconception that is there?
So I think, as it is very widely discussed in the actual community itself, I think the salary expectations are wrongly set initially. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I was about to ask the same question after this, but ठीक है.
yeah. I think so. Like the salary expectations is something that is set very wrongly, because people think that once you're done with all the papers, or once you get a job, you get a very high number, which is not
Yeah.
true. It
Okay.
builds over years, and once you have a certain level of experiences, when you can expect that number, which is widely discussed. But at an entry level, I think it is at par with other industries. If you are working in a finance role, if you are working in an accounting setup, like if you're a CA,
Hmm.
I think the salary levels are at par with other professions, and you're just starting out. But
Okay.
it builds over time. Yeah. So I think if you're starting out, first thing you need to get right is your salary expectations and what you will be earning in the future.
Okay, because I've heard a lot of huge numbers, like people saying 1 crore you're going to be earning such a huge amount if you get become an actuary, because there are very few number of actuaries in India right now.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that is the number that I've heard outside.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but coming to the very interesting question, suppose if somebody is starting out the journey, so you've talked about one misconception, but what is
yeah.
one advice from your side that to a student who's starting the journey for actuarial science?
I think whenever someone has reached out to me asking about this course, tips and tricks, what to expect, what not to expect, I've always told them that it's a great field to enter. It's
Hmm.
intellectually challenging. You'll be doing great work. You'll be exposing yourself to so many tools, so many great opportunities. But one thing to get right is, are you in it for the long run? As in,
Okay.
it takes a lot of time, right? So it's not just your professional working environment or your exams. You have to do both of them together, and that is what makes it difficult. It
Hmm.
Because doing college and not working, that's fine. Just working and not studying, that's fine. Doing both things together is very difficult. You have to manage time, you have to sacrifice your weekends, your whatever other things that you're interested in. So let's say someone is a basketball player, and
Right.
because of so many things happening, they can't just pursue it anymore, right? So I think when you are starting out, ask yourself whether you are okay to spend the next 5 or 6 years, or if you are lucky or you're good at it, 4 years, are you okay to be at it for those many years?
Okay, wonderful. And also, finally, we have a quick quiz section or short segment for you where you have to answer very fast. Okay. So,
Okay,
the
okay,
first question is, if you were not doing actuary, what
okay.
career would you would have chosen?
I think given that I also play the guitar, I would choose to be a
Wow.
musician.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Predicting risk or managing risk?
Both. First we predict risk and then we manage. So both, yeah.
Okay. Okay. What is the best advice that you have got in your career?
I think again building on the point that I mentioned previously, uh, whenever you are starting, and this is not specific to actuarial science actually, if you are in a career, initially you should always ask yourself whether I am okay to spend the next 10 years into this field.
Okay.
Like taking the example of stock markets, right? You don't become rich or wealthy in the markets in a day, in a week, or in a month, right? You have
Hmm.
to like stay invested in it for the long term for
Right.
your value to increase, right? So similarly in any other field, if you are like just starting out, you should
Hmm.
always ask yourself, am I in it for the long run? And if the answer is yes, then you're lucky you've got the right field for yourself.
Wonderful, wonderful, Saransh. This conversation is going to be very helpful for all the candidates who are planning to, especially the students who are into the 12th standard and they're planning to go into finance and they want to explore different courses. So your
Yeah,
view about actuarial science, I think so, will give them good amount of clarity that whether
yeah.
this is actually for me or not, and at least they can try one exam and they can see. And that's a very good perspective that you have given. So thank you again for joining and taking a part in this discussion. This is going to be really helpful for a lot of audience that we have on the channel.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. And I'll be really glad to help students who are just entering the field to, by helping them solve their queries related to this field. So, like, if anyone comes up to you, I'm happy to help them.
Sure, wonderful, Saransh, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.